Does anybody want to make a motion to
Yeah,
that?
I move we waive the fee.
We move to waive the fee. Okay.
Is there a
agreement?
How much is the fee, $300?
$410.
Is there a second to that motion?
I don't. Which one we on?
We're still on the floor, sorry.
4.
I moved ahead.
Yeah.
I thought he was up.
Yeah, so what are we talking about, waiver of fees?
David, you want to speak to that?
Well,
Doc wants to know.
Mr. Block sent an email
Yeah.
requesting a waiver of the fee for the information he desires. And I think our executive director said it's about $410. He says it's for the public good. I think that he's going to make whatever information he finds available to the public and to the Board of Elections. Hope that you make it available to us first. We appreciate that. But under these circumstances, if he's doing this as a public service, I think that he should be waived.
Okay.
But my question was there a second to it?
No, not yet.
No,
No.
no.
I'll second that. I'll go along with it. Mr. Schultz, Commissioner Schultz.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask a couple of questions for the Executive Director. You have spent a great deal of time dealing with Mr. Block's inquiries over the past year, is that correct? Do you have any sense of how many hours you've put in?
Without this APRA request?
Without this, yeah.
I would say, estimating 100 hours.
100 hours of time on Mr. Block's various requests, and we've never charged him for any of that.
No.
Okay. My response on the motion is, we have to ask ourselves, this is the first time we've had an APRA request. You know, one of the people used to ask me what's the hardest case you ever had to decide when you were a judge, and the answer was the first one, because everything has to be consistent with that. And it seems to me that if we have a rule that provides for a fee, and that we have spent a massive amount of time and effort, not just on this one, but on prior requests without assessing a fee, that I don't really see, if we just adopted a policy, I think we should follow that policy. And so I would be opposed to the motion to waive it. I think the fee should be imposed. I think there's no showing, and Mr. Block has refused to testify about it. There's been no showing other than a simple, I want to waive it because it's in the public interest. Well, I don't think just stating it's in the public interest demonstrates that it's in the public interest. I think there has to be some basis for that. Mr. Block's refused to give us that. So I would oppose the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the fact that a lot of time has been devoted to this. The amount of the fee that we're talking about is not for the time that it's been devoted for, it's for the gathering of the records and submitting them and copying them. Is that correct?
For the APRA request.
For the APRA?
The 100 hours was for other inquiries he has made throughout the year.
Yeah.
But the APRA request, I believe, is 27 hours, and the first hour is free.
Okay, so it does call for reimbursement for time as well as.
That's right.
Yes,
At
it does.
$15 an hour, which is well below the actual cost.
Absolutely.
And
That's policy, right?
right, and it's, Bob, you sent us an email this morning that said that the total amount was going to be $390, and he's, right, no, $415. $410.85. And he's already given us a check for $300.
Correct.
And we've also had discussions with the Department of Administration, staff has, about the extent to which more historical information can be obtained.
Correct.
And as I understand the email that was forwarded to the board, the Department of Administration is working on a formal response directly to Mr. Block regarding his request, including information regarding the conversion to Office 365. We'll get a copy of that. the DOA is currently exploring options to make pre-conversion emails searchable and accessible. So they're working on that right now. At this time, it's the Department of Administration's belief that Division of Information Technology has provided the Board of Elections with all available requested emails which were converted. Therefore, no additional search and retrieval costs under the Access to Public Records Act would be assessed by the DOA. So they're not looking for any additional funds for the part of this request that they're working on at this point.
At this point.
Okay, and to be clear, this is a request that goes back. This isn't just a current events sort of thing. Mr. Block was looking for records that go back to 2003.
That's correct.
So there have been a lot of statutory changes during that period of time. So we're really being asked whether or not somebody should pay us to do historical research rather than anything involving the contemporary. My understanding is that you also gave to Mr. Block already, based on the emails between you and him that I've read, that you also provided the 2011 email, I think it was sent to local boards.
He actually gave that to me.
Okay, so he already has, and is there anything beyond that? Do you know, since 2011, have there been any comprehensive memos sent out?
I mean, that's right. Have we have anything of substance in that packet after 2011 that went to all the local boards?
There are emails responsive to Mr. Block's request that was sent to all the boards of campuses. That fit his search criteria.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
And just one last thing.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
We are going into an election year where we have a huge amount of work to do with the poll pads and the new electronic systems that are in place, plus the need to do the post-election audits.
Correct.
So it seems to me that if our time is going to be, our staff time, which is minimal, is going to be taken up with requests for historical research, that we should charge the person that wants that information. It's not an interest group. It's not like Common Cause in the ACLU or the press. It's just an individual that has a lot of questions. And it seems
Since
to
when
me,
does APRA have a test?
Excuse me.
When does
You're out of
APRA have
order.
a
You're out of
test?
order.
For who makes the
You're out of
request?
order.
There we go.
No uppers.
There we go.
This isn't a ballroom.
There we go.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
So
I'm
it's so predictable. But the fact is that as an individual, and Mr. Block just says he's here as an individual, the question is, should we keep spending tens and dozens of hours answering some questions that, as far as I can see, were fairly basic about election law? Or should we focus on doing the job of running the election? And, you know, I really don't appreciate outbursts.
Mr. Commissioner Pierce.
Chair, I would have no objection if we defer this matter to another meeting where Mr. Block would have an opportunity to comment.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
All right.
Well, you have, as I understand it from Mr. Thorne, the records have been compiled. Typically, normally with the policy you've put in place, you would receive the money first before you release the records. So you should at least consider that, because the 30 days to do so would be tomorrow. It would certainly be this week.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any objection to releasing the records. I believe that Mr. Block, despite his recent outburst here, is acting in good faith with respect to this request and would in fact respond to the board if we decided he had to pay for it, that he would in fact pay for it. I don't have any objection to that.
Should I take that in the form of a motion then? That
Well,
we defer it?
there's a motion on the floor, so.
So I should withdraw the motion? Yeah. And then we see it in John.
Now withdraw my second. Are you going to withdraw your second? All right.
And I would move that we defer this matter until our next meeting, when Mr. Block will have an opportunity to be represented by counsel.
There's a motion on the floor by
I'll
Commissioner
second that.
Pierce, seconded by Vice Chairman Gutierrez to allow Mr. Block to bring counsel to our next meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Number 5, the board may discuss and vote upon legislation to be introduced in the 2018 General Assembly session.
I